After John Brown's raid on Harper's Ferry, the New York Herald reported that New York Republican William Seward was told in May of 1858 about John Brown's plans, 17 months before the attack had happened. Seward had warned no one. Once it became known that Seward had known in advance about John Brown's attack, Seward took an extended vacation in Europe. Around the same time, Republicans in Congress were clamoring for an increase in federal tariffs, which had been lowered by the Democrats in 1857 to a low level. The Mercury started to connect the dots.
Mr. Seward a hero. Mr. Seward left the United States on his travels in Europe with demonstration of popular admiration and applause, never before bestowed on any citizen of the United States. His return is hailed with equal enthusiasm. The City Hall of the City of New York is tendered to him to receive the streams of thousands who desire to see and greet him. In all the chief towns in New York through which he passed to his home in Auburn, he is received as a conqueror and hero. We get below the account of his reception at the town of his residence, without distinction of party. All the popular admiration which was exhibited during their lives to Webster, Clay, or Calhoun, pale before the blazing enthusiasm Mr. Seward has inspired. It is a most interesting inquiry, worthy of the deepest attention of the people of the South, why this vast enthusiasm towards Mr. Seward. He is no orator. His style of speaking is about as interesting as the monotonous operations of a half-sucked pump. With not a particle of enthusiasm himself even, has he excited so vast an enthusiasm in others. His speeches are without rhetoric and without much ability, never reaching beyond the level of a plain, common sense and a very common ratiocination. We do not suppose that, excepting by a collector of curiosities in politics, there are a dozen men in the Union who have filed away his speeches. How is it, then, that he has attained the vast celebrity he possesses and has won his way so effectively to the popular heart of the North? The answer is easy. Mr. Seward is true to the North. No man who is at all acquainted with the politics of the United States from the foundation of the government can be ignorant of the rivalry and jealousy which has always existed in the North towards the South. The policy of no more slave states was put forth in the North as far back as 1813 by the Hartford Convention. The black Republicans now are not a whit more sectional and anti-Southern than the Federalists of the North were in 1813. But they could not combine the North against the South. The Southern statesmen, with their enlarged statesmanship, were able to keep the North divided and to rule the Union consistent with the general principle of the Constitution and the just interest of all the sections composing it. In this policy, however, the North obtained, in vast excess, superior advantages under their administration. The poorest section of the Union, the North, became the richest. Conscious of the advantages of the administration of the affairs of the federal government by the South, a powerful party in the North arose to sustain it. By the aid of this party in the North, the South prevented the North from becoming sectionalized and ruled the Union. Mr. Seward, like any other man of common sagacity, saw that, for the North to rule in the Confederacy, they must be united. They had the numerical power, and all that was needed to secure the ascendancy and dominion of the North was to make it sectionalized and thus bring its consolidated power to bear on the federal government. It is true that this policy is directly against the whole intent and spirit of the Constitution. The Constitution of the United States was expressly framed, with all its cautious limitations, to prevent any collision between the different sections of the Union in matters of interest or in strife for power. Only powers which would not be sectional in their operation and which would affect generally all sections alike were intended to be conferred by the Constitution of the United States on the federal government. It is also equally true that all the great Unionists of former times, from Washington down to Jackson and Fillmore, have warned the people against sectional organizations to the Union. Mr. Seward understands all this as well as they have done. But his sectionalism is stronger than his unionism. His devotion to the North swallows up all regard for the Constitution, if he ever had any for the South. His ambition, utterly impossible of gratification on the general theater of the Union, looks to Northern sectionalism and Northern predominant for its aggressive exercise. Hence he has boldly entered on the enterprise of making the North rule the South and wielding the federal government in all its branches to perpetuate its sway. The tariff has long been a sectional question, and he seizes it to aid his policy of sectionalizing the North. Internal improvements and profligate expenditures of every kind by the federal government are also auxiliary to his purpose. Slavery in the South is, however, his grand instrumentality to consolidate the North against the South. He combines fanaticism with money and sectional ambition to lift the North to a despotic ascendancy over the colonized South. Standing, therefore, before the people of the North as their foremost champion for their aggrandizement, enrichment and dominion in the Union, is it surprising that they hail him with enthusiasm as their leader and hero? To take the positions that he has done has required no great ability. Even the irrepressible conflict declaration was put forth in Illinois by the black Republican candidate against Mr. Douglas long before he announced it. But New York is as different from Illinois as a broom-grass old field is from a vast prairie. The fire, which only caught the intelligence of a few, with his torch flames to heaven, like an aurora borealis, spanning the whole northern hemisphere. He is a northern man true to northern interest and northern feelings. Hence the whole secret of his vast popularity. How different has been the course of the southern people towards those who have been true to the south. From Calhoun, dying in despair, to the many brave and faithful spirits who have followed him, laboring in vain, or who, now living, or ostracized for their fidelity. What a contrast! What an ominous and sad reality. Charleston Mercury, January 10, 1860.
So what are the implications of this? In May 1858, Hugh Forbes, one of John Brown's men, had warned Seward of John Brown's plans. This shows that when Republicans in public office know in advance of an impending anti-slavery attack, they will keep it secret. There had never been a Republican in the White House, so what would a Republican president do if another Harper's Ferry was attempted? Nobody knew. Next, shortly after the public learned that Seward had known in advance, he took a European vacation. Northerners, Democrats and Republicans, cheered him on his return. According to the Mercury, slavery was merely an excuse to unify the North, because nobody in the North owned slaves. The tariff was another plank to unify the North. Taken together, the North had become wealthy, dominant in the Union. This shows the beginning of a Southern narrative that Northern anti-slavery was being wed to pro-tariff Northerners as a political movement. The Mercury was urging Southerners to unite as well.